Here I am. How do I sum up 60 years? Yeah, I said that out loud. If I share a poem, should it be Robert Service, Edgar Allan Poe, A.A. Milne, Robert Frost? Should I share an excerpt from William Shakespeare or Charles Dickens? Should I share one of his favorite songs? And if I did, would it be from a favorite musical, Music Man? The symphony, the opera, maybe a jazz tune or ballad from Joni Mitchell. There's so many other countless pop and rock songs that bring him to my mind. But maybe you'd all really rather know stories like instead of on Saturday morning saying, kids, get up, get out of bed, you got chores. He just put on Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, the song, Money. Really, really loud. So, it's interesting listening to my brother at church today. There were a couple of themes that kind of rang true. So you'll probably this might sound a little redundant, but what I did learn from Dad is that he taught us how to love family, wisdom, and purpose. He believed in taking the road less traveled, and certainly not to ever make decisions like cattle or sheep. He'd say, don't get in line with your head down, take your own path. Too many people just follow their noses. I'm thankful he valued a higher education for all of us. He believed if, we could give all to a goal, we had just as good a chance at opportunity as anyone. Not because we were smarter or we were entitled, because success was achievable as long as we weren't lazy. Oh, and by the way, you are Griffin. You do it right and you don't quit easy. Always a man to love humor. There may have been a wink to accompany that delivery, or sometimes a joke or an anecdote if it was appropriate. So what I guess is what is most important is that he shared all of these special gifts with us, starting our childhood and continuing throughout our adult lives. And I assume everyone here may have also experienced those gifts. So to all those characteristics, I'm forever blessed and proud to be his daughter, who used to lovingly call me his pussycat. One of his favorite Christmas movies, some of you may know, It Was a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart. And he used to love to use his voice and say little things with Jimmy Stewart, Susie's Petals and all that. He said, but if you're familiar with it, he loved saying to those that he loved that he would lasso the moon for us if he could. And I believe he'd still be lassoing the moon for all of us in Oxford if he could. So Dad, always in my memory and in my heart, hip hip, till we meet again. I love you.
Okay, so I'm the other sister. I'm Michelle, and my comments today are going to sound somewhat familiar, I think. Listening to my brother's comments at church and my sister, I did hear hers yesterday, but we chuckled because we wrote our comments for today to our dad independently and did not share. And there are some themes that keep coming up in each of our comments, and so I think you'll hear from me a couple as well. I wear my glasses. And if I get emotional, someone come up and just slap me. I titled my comments, What Do I Say Today? How can I possibly pay proper tribute to my dad, who always provided for me? How do I describe all that he meant to me as a father, a mentor, and a friend? Over the course of my entire life of many decades, like the famous line in the movie, To Sir with Love, as I went from crayons to perfume. How do I summarize his guidance and love? Now you're going to make me cry, Patrick. You're not supposed to be nice to me. So just to stand here. Okay, thank you. Okay. That's when you cry. Okay, so how do I summarize his guidance and love as I grew from a child to a woman, from a student to a business professional, and from an ingenue to a place of some sage? So many memories have been flowing through my mind these past days. How I was unafraid at airports, because as a child, I knew it was a safe place because he was there. How my desire to learn the French language and to earn an internship to France in my college years was in part led by his example to open the borders of my mind and my experience. How he inspired me to get that MBA, and be the first woman in the family to do it. As he often said, kids, don't be one of the sheep. Think for yourself, figure it out. Always, sorry, I had to really emphasize that, always reach for the brass ring, and always, always keep your word and follow through. Pay attention to people's actions. Don't listen to empty words. I know we'll share our stories into the future forever to remember him and to honor his legacy. I know we all wanted him to be proud of us, as he wanted us to be proud of him. It makes my heart smile to have heard him ask me that question just this past year, and that I had the chance to tell him just how much and how proud we were of him. I think he knew, but it was nice for him to hear it. So for today, I would like to share a few excerpts of poetry. So here's a common theme that were special to Dad. First, a short poem that Megan and I sent to him for Father's Day in 2015, which we know meant a lot to him. It's titled, What Makes a Father? God took the strength of a mountain, the majesty of a tree, the warmth of a summer sun, the calm of a quiet sea, the generous soul of nature, the comforting art of night, the wisdom of the ages, the power of the eagle's flight. Then God combined these qualities. When there was nothing more to add, he knew his masterpiece was complete, and so he called it Dad. Dad read a lot of stories and poems to us over the years, and not just when we were young, but also two that he loved, and of course we did because he did, our children's favorites by A.A. Milne, Sand Between the Toes and Vespers, just a few verses. We had sand in the eyes and the ears and the nose, and sand in the hair and sand between the toes. Whenever a good nor'wester blows, Christopher Robin and we have sand between our toes. Little boy kneels at the foot of his bed, droops on little hands, little gold head. Hush, hush, whisper who dares. Christopher Robin and we are saying our prayers. Well, Dad, we've said our prayers today, and we're looking forward to getting back to Lake Michigan in a few weeks, when we will with certainty all have sand between our toes. We'll be sharing that with you in our hearts. And until we meet again, rest easy, Dad. I love you more.
I'm Mike Jr.'s wife. My name is Amy. And there's one story that kind of sits with me, and I'll share it with you. When Mike and I met, it was lovely, and we, of course, wanted to introduce each other to the other families and this and that. Well, my mother's maiden name is Griffin. I hail from Utah. There were a lot of raised eyebrows. Let me assure you, we are not related, but it did make things go quite smoothly when I introduced my future husband as Mike Griffin, and when Mike introduced me, his future wife, to his dad. So he felt like I was like kind of a Griffin squared or something. So I was okay. And one time he said to me, "Please call me Dad." And at that time, I still had my dad. You only had one dad. I do regret saying, "No thanks, Mike, but you'll always be Mike." But I miss him like a dad. So I love him. I love you, Oz.
My mother would always get real excited. Mike's coming, my brother Mike's coming, and I was like, okay, Mike's coming. And, that's before I kind of got to know him and stuff. I was just a little guy. And one of my favorite times that I remember, he drove up in a Mustang convertible because he was a cool guy. And I remember we were talking, and my younger brother, who's 8 years younger than me, I used to let him kind of hang around me because my older brother didn't. So I always kind of felt a little empathy for him. And we were talking to Mike, and Mike threw me the keys and said, you know, you guys go take a spin, you know? So that's kind of, do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I'm 1,000 winds that blow. I'm the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift, uplifting rush of quiet birds in circle flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry, I am not there. I did not die. Thank you.
These guys are my first cousins and
Best cousins.
they were older than I was when I was growing up. I always looked up to them. I still do.
So what you're looking at is the 2018 reunion committee. Actually, the last 3 reunions we've been the committee, which I don't know why we get suckered into this every year.
Now's the time to drop the mic.
Exactly. No, I want to hold on to it because I'm going to sing.
You're going to need it.
I would appreciate you, and I feel your emotion very much. But I'm going to change it up a little bit because with everything that Mike has done for all of us, and he's touched obviously many lives, I think what no man or no father or husband can make a stronger statement, and that is to see the success and the beauty of their family and their children, their wife. There is no greater testament, so I'm not even going to pretend to say anything other than that. You just need to look at the family that he led and did so much for, and a lot of people, he touched a lot of people very uniquely throughout the extended family, myself in particular. I do have to share something that's a little different, because when I would come to the cottage and be with this wonderful family, we actually look forward to Mike leaving the cottage because then we could get into trouble and do things. So I kind of, I have this strange memory of wanting him to but no, in reality, when he showed up, there was just a different atmosphere in a beautiful way that, everybody just seemed whole again when he was with us. And everybody just, you kind of had you went into your purpose mode where we needed to, we were family. We needed to prove that to one another. It wasn't just about having fun and stuff. So the only other thing, you mentioned a car, because he was really cool. And I was, I think, 15 or 16 when we had a reunion, and my God, he pulled up in this, I'll never forget it. What was it?
MGBGT.
Exactly. What color was it?
Green.
Yes. That was my car. That was a car I was going to own one day, and I never forgot it. I never will. I still hope I own one day. Right, dear? Yes. So,
You better hurry.
So anyway, Buster, my love to you, and our family's love to you. Many of who couldn't be here today, but I've gotten many texts today. They love you, they loved your husband, and they loved your father, and I have to say, reunions will never be the same without him. So, thank you.
When Oz asked me to speak, I said, what in the world can I say? And she said, just tell it from the heart and tell it like you know it. Well, about 30 years ago,
this nice couple met this single mom from Georgia. This little girl who decided to go to work for the symphony, albeit I'd never seen or been at a symphony before, but I could count tickets. Through that, I began working in different venues with Austin Mike, and I began to grow, but not without some hurdles that I had to face. You see, this nice couple sort of took me under the wing, so to speak. And taking me under the wing, there were some growing pains. For instance, when I would mess up, and Mike would say, "Paula, do you have something to tell me?" It went something like this. "But it was his fault. It wasn't my fault, and he asked for it." And then those steely eyes looking at me for a few moments. "Well, how can we fix this?" Well, it was fight or flight. I know I couldn't outrun him. So, I said, "I don't know, tell me." And he told me. And everything was fine because he was there and I learned from him. Then take this experience from this young girl in her 20s, my how time flies, who had no education, who didn't know which fork to use, who certainly didn't know the difference between traditional and Dixieland, who began to grow and to figure those things out, and then hostess, where again, and I went back to school. I said, "What am I going to be?" "I'm going to be a teacher." And Mike said, "Teacher, okay, you can talk." And we all know that's the truth, right? And then he said, there was the bard. And the bard said, "All the world's a stage, and men and women are merely the player's opponent." And aren't we those players? And so many varied roles that we can play, from husband and father,
Cousin. Or nephew.
and mentor. I got the position of being part of this glorious family and learning from each and every one, but especially my mentor. Take it a little further down the pike. After a bachelor's, after a master's, and after the pre-doctoral degree was finished, and that same little girl who didn't know which knife, which fork, which spoon, I used the dessert one a lot because it was pretty. Who knew? That same little girl would look at that great man and know the inspiration that he'd given throughout those 30 years. And I couldn't wait when I would have one success to go and to tell him, because I knew that affirmation was there. And then he would say, "Next. What's next?" To keep going. A few weeks ago, I got a call from his lovely bride who said, "You need to come see him." And I did. I arrived, and there he was in his chair. And I said, "Oh my, this will not do. Your hair is a mess." So I combed his hair back, and I said, "I'll be here shortly, and you cannot look like this." So we spoofed up. And then we decided we were going to grill out, and we were going to go for a walk through the park where we would chase some white-tailed deer. Well, Mike was deciding where we were going to shoot those deer, and I said, "Oh, we can't do that in the park." And he said, "All right, fine." I said, "Well, okay, we can't do it and get caught." always told me he loved me. Every time. He told me he loved me. And he'd say, "What's next?" And inspire me to go on. To climb to that next pinnacle. And that was the important part to reach, was that pinnacle. And to continue on as he continued on in all the varying aspects of his life. As he walked among us and knew each of us individually and learned our stories and cheered us on, sometimes with that firm fatherly hand, but cheered us on, that we learned from him and we grew with him. They say the sweetest time is the time between when we first say hello and then when we say goodbye. But this is not goodbye, because we all know Mike Griffin. It is not goodbye, but it is a fond farewell to the man that made such an impression on everyone whose lives he touched. So Mike, till we meet again, my friend. Thank you.
So, again, thank you so much for loving my dad, for being his friend, for sharing life's experiences, and for being here to support us. As I said before, our collective healing experience is really just beginning right now, and it's probably going to take some time, and it's going to require us to lean on you and to lean on each other. And we look forward for those times. And when we rekindle our friendships and we rekindle and make new memories together, we'll do so in my dad's honor. Thank you for coming.